Hi there. In the lesson last week, we looked at declarer play in no trump contracts. So I'm going to revisit some of that material for revision purposes, but I'm also going to spend a little bit more time talking about planning the play as declarer. When you're the declarer in a contract, one of the most important things you must do is take some time to prepare and make a plan for how you're going to tackle the play of that hand. It's really important to take some time before you play any cards at all, and the longer you take to make that plan, often the easier the hand may become to play later on. People that don't make plans when they're declarer often find that they win some tricks quickly, and then later on they run out of ideas and then find that they haven't made their contract and they go off. Okay. So a good framework for planning the play is something called SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this is something you might want to use as part of your planning process as declarer. Firstly, strength, S for strength. That just refers to how many top tricks are there that we can win without losing the lead. So that typically your aces or your aces and kings, or if you've got an ace, king, queen combination, that would be three top tricks. So we've looked at that in other lessons, so I'm sure you're familiar with that concept. Okay. Once you know how many top tricks you've got, you can then work out your weakness, which is really how many tricks do I need for my contract, and therefore how many extra tricks do I need to make? Because if I've got 7 top tricks and I need to make 9 tricks for my contract, then I'm 2 tricks short. So my weakness would be that I'm 2 tricks short, and I need to make an additional 2 tricks somewhere. So the opportunities are, where are the opportunities where I can make those extra 2 tricks? And threats refers to what can go wrong, and that's quite a big subject, but we'll look at a little bit of that during this lesson. Okay. One thing you'll often find when you go through your planning process as declarer is that you don't seem to have enough top tricks. Now, don't panic. This happens actually most of the time. If bridge was just a game where all you had to do was play off your top tricks, it wouldn't be the most fascinating and intriguing game that it is. Okay, so there's obviously much more to this game. So don't be surprised if you haven't got enough top tricks and you have to find ways to make other tricks. And the secret to declare a play is looking for opportunities for how you will make additional tricks. So when we're playing in no trumps and we need to make additional tricks, we need to think of some basic techniques to make those extra tricks. And there are 3 common ways that you'll come across. Let's have a look at them. Firstly, we've got force. So you've already used this before in some of the practice hands we've had in the lessons, but this is simply forcing out some high cards that the opponents hold, which will ultimately promote other high cards that you hold in the same suit. There's length, which again is really important in no trump contracts, where you have a long suit, you lead out a long suit, you might be able to exhaust the opponents of any cards that they hold in that suit, and so ultimately even your small cards in that long suit will become winners. That's a really important technique that's often used in no trump contracts. And lastly, we can take advantage of the position of key cards that the opponents might hold. Okay, and that's something called the finesse. Again, a really commonly occurring situation in bridge. There are many different finesse situations, and we're going to look at a couple of rather simple ones to get to understand the concept. Firstly, let's have a look in more detail at the situation of using force to create winners. And here's a situation. We're only looking at one suit here. It's the heart suit. We assume we're playing in no trumps. And what you can see here, I don't think it's too difficult to see the situation here, but we don't have any top tricks in hearts. We don't hold the ace, but clearly once we start playing hearts, at some point we will be able to force out the ace of hearts, and we will then promote the rest of the long heart suit. So we'll end up making 1, 2, 3. We'll make 4 tricks there. We will lose one of our heart tricks to the ace, but we will promote 4 more high card tricks in hearts. So the technique there is just to keep playing on hearts until the ace is played by the defenders, and then you will ultimately make 4 tricks. So very, very straightforward. Okay. So let's have a look at an example of using that force technique and planning the play using SWOT. Okay, so let's assume we're the declarer. We are south. Our contract is 3 no trump. We need to make 9 tricks, of course. And west, the defenders have led the jack of diamonds. So let's start to plan the play using the SWOT framework. Okay, firstly, think about strength. So strength just means where are our top tricks? So let's go through that. Well, clearly we've got 2 top tricks in spades, the ace and the king. We don't actually have any top tricks in hearts. We have 3 top tricks in diamonds, the ace, king and the queen, and we have 2 in clubs. So that is a total of 7 top tricks, 2 spades, 3 diamonds, 2 clubs. What's the weakness? Well, the weakness here is that our contract is 3 no trump, so we need to achieve 9 tricks. So we are too short. Where might the opportunities be to make additional tricks? Well, if we go through suit by suit, we'll see actually that there really aren't any prospects for making additional tricks in spades. There's no prospects whatsoever for making additional tricks in diamonds. And I can't see any way that we would make an additional trick in club. So we'll just take our ace and king, but we aren't going to make any more club tricks. But clearly, as the slide says there, we can take advantage of force. We've got a nice strong sequence of heart cards. If we just keep playing those hearts, at some point we will force out both the ace and the king of hearts, and we will promote 2 of our remaining heart cards, and we will make 2 more heart tricks to give us our total of 9 tricks and hopefully make our contract. Lastly, let's just think about any threats. Are there any threats here? Hopefully not too bad, but let's think about what happened on the lead. The opponents have led diamonds. They've probably got long diamonds. One of them's probably got either 4 or 5 diamonds, possibly. Okay, so we just need to be a little bit careful. An inexperienced player might just start playing off our diamond winners before they've actually thought about how to play this hand properly. So if you win the opening lead and then cash 2 diamond tricks and then realize that the only way you're going to make your contract is by forcing out the hearts. As you start to force out the hearts, you will let the opponents in, and whoever gets in may well have remaining diamond tricks to cash, and they might be able to take additional tricks there, and you could even go off on a bad day. So the threat here is the diamond suit. So the way we're going to manage that is because we need to lose the lead twice to set up our heart suit, we need to keep our diamond guards. So we're not going to play diamonds at all. We're only going to play those diamond cards when the opponents get in and force us to play them. Otherwise, we will just keep them there as guards to keep that suit safe. And that's how we're going to achieve 9 tricks on that hand. And I think you can see that's fairly straightforward to use force and achieve 9 tricks on that hand. So let's look at a situation of establishing extra tricks using the length that we hold in long suits. So here's a situation. Again, assume we're in no trumps, and we're only looking at the club suit here. And the club suit has given us a really good opportunity to make extra tricks here. We've got 5 tricks in dummy, the ace, king, queen, 3, 2, and we've got 3 small clubs in hand. So that's a total of 8 cards that we hold in the club suit. So how many clubs have the opponents got? Well, there's 13 tricks, 13 cards, of course, in each suit. We've got 8, so there are 5 clubs outstanding, split between the 2 defenders' hands. On a good day, they will split such that one of them has got 3 and one of them has got 2. That's actually quite likely. That's mathematically the most likely combination, the most likely layout for those remaining club cards to be distributed. So there's a very good chance that actually one of them's got 3, one of them's got 2, and therefore if we lead out the ace, king, and the queen, all of their clubs will be exhausted and our 3 and our 2 will become winners. So this is the sort of situation that we're hoping for, a 3-2 split between the defenders on the remaining clubs. And here you can see that if that happened, just leading the ace, the king and the queen, the opponent's clubs will all fall and our 3 and our 2 small cards in the clubs will automatically become winners, and we will make a total of 5 tricks in that club suit. That's a great situation. Okay, so always look for those when you're that sort of situation when you're declarer. Here's a slightly different one. Again, different suit. Let's look at the diamonds here. And again, we've got 8 diamonds. We've got 2 top tricks, the ace and the king. Can we make additional tricks? Well, again, if we go through the same sort of logic that there are 8 diamonds that we hold, um, the opponents will only be holding a maximum of 5 diamonds. And again, on a good day, on an average day, they are likely to split three. One of them will have 3, and another one will have 2. So if that happens, there's still an opportunity to make additional tricks here. So there's a typical layout. This is the sort of thing that might work for us. Obviously, it doesn't look as though we're going to beat the queen, but if we play the ace and the king of diamonds, both defenders will follow. The queen will be set up as a master. So the West will have an outstanding master queen of diamonds. If we now play another diamond, so we play the 2. West will win the queen of diamonds. There will be no more diamonds left in the defender's hands, and we will still have both the 7 and the 3 in our dummy. So if we can get to dummy, we can then cash our 7 and 3, which are promoted winners. And so we've now achieved a total of 4 tricks in the diamond suit. Courtesy again of our length mostly. Okay, if the diamonds were to split such that one opponent had all 5 of them, of course we wouldn't be able to do anything better than just take our ace and our king, but it's much more likely that the diamonds are split more evenly between the 2 hands, and that's the situation we have to hope for when we plan the play here. Let's look now at a third possible technique that declarer might use to make additional tricks when playing either in a no trump or even a trump contract. And this technique involves taking advantage of the position of key cards that the opponents hold in a particular suit. It's known as the finesse, and finesse has come up a lot in bridge. It's a very common term, and there are lots of different examples. Some are quite complicated, but let's look at one that's relatively straightforward, because this is the kind of thing that does come up a lot and is a good technique for making extra tricks. So let's assume that we are the declarer in a no trump contract. I'm only showing the clubs here. Obviously, there are 3 other suits here that are relevant to the overall hand, but I'm just thinking about the play in the club suit here. So if we were declarer, we were the south hand, we've got 3 small clubs. In dummy, we've got the ace queen and the 2 of clubs. So when we are planning our play, we would ask ourselves, how many top tricks are there in clubs? And clearly in terms of top tricks, we've only got 1, which is the ace. But we might have to ask ourselves, have we got an opportunity to make an additional trick in clubs? Now the answer is yes, provided that the king of clubs is in the West hand. If West has the king of clubs, then we have a very good chance of making an additional trick in club suit, provided we play the right technique. If East holds the king of clubs, there's almost no chance of us making an additional trick in clubs unless the defenders are totally asleep. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So the technique involves playing the club 3, playing low from the south hand, leading our cards towards our ace queen in dummy. And what happens here is if West has got the king of clubs, then we are going to make 2 additional tricks. We're going to make 2 overall tricks in clubs. We will make an additional trick on top of our ace of clubs. So let's have a look at it. Let's play the 3. And West, let's assume that West has got the king of clubs and chooses to play low. They play the 6 of clubs. Now, we don't know where the king of clubs is, but we're very much hoping it's with the West hand. So what we do now is rather than play the ace, we choose to play the queen and keep our fingers crossed, hoping that East does not have the king. We watch East's card and we find East only plays the 7 of clubs. So that's good news for us. It means we've been successful. Our finesse has worked and we've managed to make a trick with the queen of clubs. And of course, later on in the play, we will have the chance to win a trick with the ace of clubs as well, making a total of 2 tricks in that club suit. And there's the overall layout of the cards in this particular example. And as you can see, West did in fact have the King of clubs. You just might ask yourself, well, when we played the three, West chose to play the six. They played low. What happens actually if West doesn't play the six? What happens if West instead, when we played the three, West played the king? Well, of course, if West put the king in rather than the six, all we would do is we would beat the king with our ace in dummy, and of course now our queen in dummy would now be promoted. It would be the master club because both ace and king have gone. So we would still make two tricks in clubs by virtue of the fortunate position of this king of clubs being in the west hand. What happens if the you're going to ask what happens if the king of clubs is in the east hand? Well, sometimes it will be in the east hand, and on those occasions you won't be able to make an additional trick. But if you don't know anything about the layout of the hand at the time when you're making the plan, which is normally the situation, then it's reasonable to assume there's a 50-50 chance that the king of clubs is going to be either in the west or the east hand. So you're giving yourself a 50-50 chance of making an additional trick. So when you start to plan your play and think about how you can make additional tricks, it's always worth thinking about these finesse positions because sometimes they give you an opportunity to make another trick. Sometimes, of course, you'll be unlucky, but certainly always look for them because they do come up quite a lot. So let's just recap very quickly on some of the key things we've covered in this short lesson. Firstly, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to take some time to plan the hand before you play any cards at all. Okay, and a good framework, as we've seen, is to use SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Even if you're not comfortable using that yet, just start to think as declarer. How many tricks do I need to make? How many top tricks have I actually got? Where might I be able to make more tricks? If you don't start thinking like that, then you'll find that often you will go down in your contract because you haven't really put together a proper plan. So that's the most important thing of all from this lesson. Once you start to plan your play, then you can start to look for opportunities to make more tricks. And those opportunities can come either from forcing out opponent high cards, length, exploiting the length of your long suits, or of course the position, playing finesses. Now finesses, okay, sometimes they depend on you being lucky. They depend on a card being in the right hand rather than the wrong hand. Well, but that might be the only chance you've got to make your contract. So you should still look for those opportunities, and often you might be right to play those opportunities as they may be the only way that you could make that extra trick to make your contract. Okay, just be aware when you play that often you may actually need to lose a trick or more than one trick to set up tricks later on. So we've seen that when we force out, for example, there was a hand earlier where we had to lose both the ace and the king of hearts. So sometimes we need to lose one or more tricks to set up tricks later on. So that's an important thing to bear in mind. Don't be scared of losing tricks early on if they give you tricks back later on in the hand. Okay, but one important thing is if you do need to lose a trick, it's often best to lose it early on in the play of the hand. Lose a trick early on in no trumps because then you're more likely to have all of the other suits guarded. If you play off a lot of your winners early on and then lose tricks, you'll find that the opponents can then get in and take tricks in some of those other suits, and you've no longer got any guards to stop them doing that. So that's all I really wanted to cover today. Hopefully that's been useful, and let me know if you've got any questions, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.